Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you in the French light tank line. This is the Tier 10, the BC25T, the Muskateer, and this is a fantastic tank. I really love it. It's been great fun playing it. Really enjoyed it. Let's have a look at the tech spec and Blitz hanger. I mean, this is an excellent light tank, right? And it is not just typical of that playstyle, but it perhaps epitomizes that playstyle, right? The Muskateer with a special camo describes it perfectly. It really is a Muskateer, swashbuckling, cut and thrust, getting around the map, being a scourge of those tank killers, those big heavies. You know, it has the firepower to deal with them, unlike, say, for example, a Tier 8 in this, which lacks firepower. It is just a great tank to play, and it's a fun tank. It has a 105mm gun, like its predecessor, with a 100mm gun, which we've also just reviewed. It has 3 shells in the magazine. Burst damage is pretty good. You're going to be doing 900 plus burst damage. If you're lucky enough to come up on, let's say, a grill or something like that, you can even get up to 1600. The 105mm gun used supercharged to increase that muzzle velocity, because, and this is worth noting, this is significantly different to the Tier 9. It goes up to 1900 meters per second, which is amazing and allows you to do long range sniping with impunity. We just saw there the tank is lightning fast, as you would expect. Gets around the map really well. Like with the previous tiers, you're most vulnerable in this tank in the opening part of the game, because there are going to be big guns in Tier 10, right? Your Death Stars, Grill, Jagdtigers, you know, the Jagdpanzer E100, Jagdtigers as well, T30s, all of them can almost one-shot you with HE rounds. So getting around the map and spotting up that enemy, because you've absolutely no armor whatsoever, is key. But once they're spotted up, the map is yours. You can raid, ambush, and strike with impunity once you know where they are. That's why the key to playing this tank well, I believe, is the opening sequence of play. Using the tank's ability to scout and spot up those tanks, those big guns, know where they are, and then you're safe to move. If you move out in the open before they're spotted up, they get a bead on you, or you're spotted up by their light tanks, it can end very badly and very quickly. Run 2 repair kits, of course, because you don't want to be caught out in the open in this, and as you can see, the tank's tracks are exposed. You can't run adrenaline, so therefore you can also run the engine accelerator, even though it's not 100% needed. Another option is to run a second fire kit. It's up to you. I ran the engine accelerator when I was playing it, just to get out that a little bit faster into those key spotting positions to spot up those big guns. That would allow me then to play this tank to its strengths. Tactics, as with its predecessors: scout, spot, keep safe in the initial part of the game, find those guns. That doesn't mean camp or hide, it means play light tank to its abilities. Get out there, use your active light camo, and find those big guns. The burst damage in this tank is brilliant. It's almost 1000. Just think about it, that's 50% of the hit point of most tanks in Tier 9 and 10. Obviously, as with its predecessors, don't go front on. That is not your job. You shouldn't be going front on, especially with big heavy tanks. You are an ambush tank, so attacking from behind and the sides, putting in that massive burst damage, that's how to play this tank. That's where it excels, and you have the speed and the agility to do that. The map is yours. Now look at the gameplay here. It's on dead rail, and to start off we're going to go to C. I'm going to do my light tank roll here. I'm going to go as quickly as possible using the engine accelerator, blasting up the hill towards C. Not initially going to cap, I'm going to scout it out, see if I can spot up the enemy, and basically do as I've said with this line all along: use my active camo and my speed to spot up the enemy. And here we go, spotting and scouting, and I spotted up the Leopard 1. The Leopard 1 is one of the more dangerous tanks for me, because he has the speed to keep with me. He can follow me, pursue me, so if I can remove him and the BC25 TAP on the other team, that's going to be really good for me. Now, I get into a spot of bother here because the tank is actually so fast. I actually was able to get up there so far ahead of my teammates that I got myself into a 2v1 situation. However, the cavalry arrives just in time, and of course it's not a fluke that they arrive just in time, right? Because Because I spotted up the enemy, I presented my team with targets. They know where they can go to engage the enemy, and they follow me up. They play well, as you would hope and expect in Tier 10, where you're hoping you're playing with the best players and the most experienced players. Of course, that is a hope which sometimes doesn't materialize. Now, as I cap here, I'm going to just take a timeout. I had a tough start. I did my job well, spotted up the enemy, presented targets for my teammates, allowed them to come in. We cleared off the Leo. We have 2 other targets here that we can take. I'm just going to basically just take a timeout, reload by doing the tap on the shell icon, and then I'm going to go and support my team. I've also capped, which is a very important part of Supremacy, and we've said it in many of the videos. We often forget, even the most experienced players, to cap, and we end up losing or drawing games because we're not doing the right things. And in Supremacy, you can easily lose a game even when you're a few tanks up because you've forgotten to cap. So I just wanted to cap there, but also I just wanted to take a breather after that crazy start to the game where I took some damage. Let my teammates do a little bit of the heavy lifting just for 30-40 seconds while I cap, and I can put in some massive burst damage there. You see over 900 burst damage, and I really support my teammate there and leave it a simple one-shot easy kill for my teammate. I am a good team player. I don't believe in kill stealing or anything like that. I think that's absolute nonsense. Your job is to clear the enemy tanks as quickly as possible, and if you can help your team doing that, then you are doing your job. It's a team game. And I believe only people who don't believe it's a team game, who only think about themselves, talk about things like kill stealing and nonsense like that. Now, we are going to clear out this IS, and I am putting in a shot into the drive wheel here. And I want to talk to you a little bit now about some sort of game theory and how important it is to know the enemy tanks. Because we've just cleared off this IS-7 now, who was pretty healthy when we came down. And the IS-7 is a tough competitor, right? And I can't see his ammo rack, but I'm putting in massive alpha rolls into him through the drive wheel. And this is why it's so important to know the enemy tank. I am not hitting that by accident. I specifically aiming at that drive wheel. If we look here at the IS-7, this is the vulnerable parts of an IS-7. The ammo rack, the drive wheels, etc. The drive wheel here at the front, as you see, and of course it applies on both sides. The ammo rack is also on both sides. We see here that this is a very vulnerable part of the tank, and you can do more damage by hitting those vulnerable parts, in particular in this instance the drive wheel. And I just thought I'd take a quick time out to show you that understanding the enemy tanks is a key part to playing very well, and in this instance delivering a mastery badge for this beautiful little French Muskateer. If I had not known the vulnerable parts of that IS-7, I probably wouldn't have gotten such alpha rolls on him, and it would have done less damage and perhaps not achieved the mastery badge in this game. And you know, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, getting that little bit of extra knowledge about the different tanks you're going to come up against in the different tiers is always key and will always help you. Now I'm playing typical light tank role in the middle of a game. I'm capping B. I'm getting extra XP for myself, of course, which is helping toward the mastery badge, but that wasn't my key concern here because I didn't know a mastery badge was going to come or was on the cards. I really wanted to cap B to make sure that we had an advantage and to put pressure on the enemy team. Now I played a very typical ambush type play, spotting, scouting, ambush type play in the start of this game and midsection, but now I'm going to go to long range sniping mode. I'm going to use that massive muzzle velocity of 1900 meters per second, and look at this. You see the shots you can put in with this tank. As we discussed before, and there's another beautiful shot, look at that, that is just a beautiful shot, and it's the muzzle velocity on this tank, that almost 2000 meters per second, that allows this gun to be so accurate and to pen from distance. That's just a great shot, and it's not possible in all tanks. For example, if you're in a tank, let's say with 1000 meters per second muzzle velocity, you probably wouldn't make that shot. Apart from the fact that muzzle velocity sends the shell across the distance faster, it also has an exponential effect on the possibility of penetrating, because if we look at the V formula, which we've looked at before on shell penetration, we see that muzzle velocity is squared, so therefore has a squared or exponential effect on the possibilities of penning from distance. See there again, look at that muzzle velocity in action, beautiful shot. And I'm putting in a lot of damage here. I'm helping my team clear off those guys, and I'm maximizing a key asset of this tank, which is that muzzle velocity, which is phenomenal. It's really high. And again, it's understanding the tank, knowing the tank strengths to enable me to, from safety, put in damage and support my team. Again, you see another really good shot there. And you know, as I said, that wouldn't be possible without that muzzle velocity. Also, without using supercharge, it probably wouldn't be possible, because the muzzle velocity would be less than 1500 meters per second. Still decent, but not in the top category as it is when you use supercharge, which is why I always use supercharge. Mathematics significantly better than your opinion. And there's no arguing mathematics, right? Well, there is if you're a moron, but hopefully if you're a subscriber to my channel, you're not. So there we go, battle finished. Probably could have come down a bit earlier, maybe cleared off that last tank. But nonetheless, Mastery Badge delivered almost 4.3k of damage, huge base XP there, over 1500 base XP. That's what delivers the Mastery Badge. So it's not just about the damage, it's also about the spotting and the capping, scouting out, etc. I think that this game, apart from the fact that it delivered a Mastery Badge, I think it illustrated just how to play this tank and what you should be doing with this tank. Firstly, using the accelerator, getting into a position, spotting up the enemy first, scouting them out for your teammates, providing your teammates with targets, then capping, not once but twice, using the great gun to ambush other tanks like I did on my tier 9 younger brother on the IS-7. Little tip there about knowing the enemy tanks to maximize your alpha rolls onto them. And then of course using the long range sniping, which is a great asset of this tank and not to be forgotten. So let's have a recap. This is an excellent light tank. In many ways it's the zenith of light tank play. You are in the very top now. You are top gun of light tanks. I'm going to say watch the light tank guide again if you haven't. I'm sure you have if you're up at tier 10, but if not, if you have already, maybe watch it again just to get a recap. This is super fast, beautifully agile tank, as we know, perfect for spotting. The scouting badges will come. You are the tip of the spear in that sense. You're a rapier, getting out there, spotting up the enemy for your teammates. Ambush tactics are the word of the day here. No, don't go front on. The autoloader is really effective. Even with AP rounds, you're doing 900 to 1000 hit point damage, which is super. And as we said, that's almost half the hit points of most tanks in tier 9 and tier 10. It's a Circle Death Master. We didn't have a look at it in this game, but you know from looking at the previous videos that this whole range of tanks is Circle Death Masters. Sniping is an option. Don't forget about that muzzle velocity because it's amazing. And of course, keep moving in this tank. That's what it's for. Stopping is dropping. If you're standing still in this tank, unless you're capping or something, you're not doing your job. And as I said, you are now, if you're up at this tank, a Zen Master of light tanks. If you can play this tank well, nobody can tell you you are not a good light tank player, because you are. Take that to the bank. You're a bloody good light tank player. Now that we've gone through the whole French light tank line, let's have a review of the entire line. I'll give you my opinion on the top 3 tanks. This is just my opinion, by the way. So in number 1 place, obviously this Muskateer. It is just an awesome light tank, and you are at the pinnacle of light tank play when you're playing this tank. It's what we strive for when we want to play light tanks. A joint first place, I'm actually going to have the Electric Biscuit. Why? Just because it's so different to what you've played before. It's your introduction to light tanks, and it is just great fun. In second place, then I have the AMX 12T. I call them the KV2 antonym because it's just the exact opposite to the KV2, and you also want to avoid them at the start of the game. And it's just great fun to play. And the wooden spoon in this line goes to the AMX 1390. I just think it lacks firepower. It just lacks something. I think it's punching above its weight in tier 8, and maybe reducing the reload either on the magazine or on the shell would help a lot with that tank, I think. So maybe it needs a little bit of a buff. So that's all from me. We've had a look at the whole line. I hope you've enjoyed the journey together. Cheers Mush, thanks for watching, and I guess all that remains to say is pants off.